Ladies and gentlemen, I'm GC Smith, and welcome to part 4 of the Miss Pandaria pre-beta coverage. Today we're going to be looking at PVE content in Miss Pandaria, but first I want to give you a quick notice, or two quick notices. The first is sorry for my massive gap between these videos, the third and fourth part. And secondly is the beta is almost upon us, probably less than a week away, or maybe this time next week it'll be out, so this may be my last pre-beta coverage video, depending on how quickly I get into the beta. I signed up for the annual pass as soon as it came up, and they have said it'll be based on the length of your account and how soon you signed up for the annual pass. My account is 2 years old, and a lot of accounts are around that age. I did have an account before that, but that stuff happened, whatever. So, yeah, this account is newer, but I did sign up really quickly for the annual pass, so hopefully I'll get within the first wave or two. Anyway, so PvE content, let's bring this to you. There are three major types of endgame PvE content in the game: raids, dungeons, and scenarios. Scenarios maybe not so much endgame, but it does reward you similar way to dungeons do. So, let's see what raids cover, shall we first? In raids, there's going to be three main raids in the expansion. Or, begin with, there's 3 raids on release, of which there is 14 bosses, and the 3 raids cover Mogu, the Mantid, and the Shah. Now, that's an average of about 5 bosses per raid, and it should be very interesting. Why? Because there's 3 different types of creatures, all of which would fight in different ways. You've got the humanoid Mogu, the beast Mantid, and the elemental / chaotic / old god related, I guess, maybe possibly, Shah. So, you've got the humanoid Mogu, who are also flesh crafters. So, I can imagine their raid instance will include a load of crazy creatures that they've created. Maybe some of the creatures that, they had as part of an empire. You may also see something like an emperor in that raid instance, maybe. Because they want to tie up the whole expansion, all the, the storyline of the Mogu, Mantid, and Shah within that kind of one on release, maybe. I guess they've said something along the lines of that. The Mantid will probably see, obviously, the Mantid Empress will be in it, from what we know. There'll be some crazy Mantid bosses, but I just hope there'll be something like Mantid ninjas or stuff like that. And the Shah, I reckon, will be similar to, say, Face Swan fights, imagine. Lots of void zones, lots of shadow, lot of maybe some possession. Some creatures they possessed, maybe they possess a random raid member and turn that into part of the fights. So there's a lot of crazy stuff that can go on, a lot of interesting stuff. Now, there are also 2 world bosses, which are also Shah related, or they're both Shah. You've got the Shah of Fear and the Shah of Anger. Now, these are 2 world bosses, which are really good things, because we haven't had world bosses since the Burning Crusade. So, yeah, that's quite good. We've had in Cataclysm, we had some world dungeon bosses, but they weren't proper raid size things, and these should help bring a bit of world PvP back, especially in the early weeks, because people want to kill these bosses for maybe possible bind on equip gear, as well as just gearing some of their members more quickly. But to keep these raid bosses going, there are also going to be unique mounts dropping from each one. So each one will drop a mount unique to that boss. And that will further encourage people to come and farm these bosses later on in the expansion, and further promote PvP with the possibility of ambushing them, especially on a PvP server, ambushing the raid that's about to kill the boss. On a PvE server, I can imagine you could probably just pop PvP and go and stand in the middle and hope you get hit by someone. If these world bosses have ads they summon, maybe have someone that's tab targeting and hits you or AoEs you or whatever. So that will be very interesting to see. So next we come on to dungeons. Dungeons are going to be split into 2 kind of modes in Miss Pandaria: Heroics and Challenge mode dungeons, with normal mode dungeons being eliminated from that level region. There are no normal modes in Pandaria content. There are 9 Heroics on launch, which include 3, I think, revamped dungeons, including Scholarmance and the Scarlet Monastery. I have no idea what other ones being revamped from the old world, although I have heard there's 6 Pandaria ones and 3 old world ones. One of the things is to mention on that scale is the Scarlet Monastery is being merged into one instance for that. So all 3 parts are like one instance, I think, maybe without the 10 or 12 bosses between it. Maybe more like 6 bosses, like 1 from each, 2 from each one or something. With Herod getting a brand new look of 2 shoulder pads. That's right, the heroic Herod has an extra shoulder pad. So that'll be very interesting. And then you've got challenge mode dungeons, which have 3 levels of difficulty: bronze, silver and gold. Now the general principle behind the challenge mode dungeon is to test your speed of getting through the dungeon when your item level is brought to a standard level. Everyone in the group will be basically have their item level lowered to a certain level. I don't know if you got it lower, it will be raised. It may just be you can't enter unless you have that item level minimum anyway. Now basically that means all your stats of all your items get lowered down to the equivalent level, which keeps the fights at a very relative difficulty the entire game. One thing I would like to see, wonder, is whether set bonuses will remain usable for that, because if you remove the set bonus, you remove some of the item level anyway, so maybe they could just nerf the item level by removing the set bonuses. And if not, even without the extra stats, those set bonuses can be really powerful as the sets progress throughout the expansion, so it'd be interesting to see something happen there. Hopefully challenge mode dungeons will not get nerfed throughout the expansion, other than maybe a slight tweaking at the beginning to kind of tune them properly, because they're meant to be challenged throughout the way. So why is there 3 different difficulties, bronze, silver and gold, or their rewards for it? Basically, that's timed, so they test your skill to see how quickly you can get through the dungeon. Bronze being like the slowest. I think they said it's going to be like virtually impossible not to get bronze. It will be if you go really, really long. But bronze is basically the low level one. Say you did it within an average time. If you complete every challenge mode dungeon on bronze mode, you'll gain a title like the Challenged or something, or the Achievement or the Challenger or something like that. Or the Challenger is a PvP mount, so PvP title. Although the PvP one's like Challenger blah 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 or Challenger GC Smith, whereas this could be GC Smith the Challenger. So we'll see what happens there. If you complete them all in silver, which is basically quicker time than bronze, so relatively quicker time than bronze but slower than gold, then you'll get, if you complete them all, you'll get a class unique item set. So what that means is for each dungeon, I think it is, there's like 5 dungeons or 5 or 6 of the dungeons will be challenge mode. I don't know if all the heroics will have challenge mode, possibly, but I think if you complete like all of them, you'll eventually unlock an item set that's for transmogrification purposes, that also have a special effect on them for when you use certain class abilities. These are going to be apparently arguably some of the best looking item sets on release for your class. But obviously your tier sets from raids will still look good, but you can always transmog them to this dungeon set if you really want to. Obviously then I guess they will all drop a piece from each one of the 9, maybe 9, there will be 9 challenge mode dungeons I think. Because you've got your 5 tier set, then you have your belt, your leg, your feet, belt and feet, that's 7, and maybe 9, that maybe a couple pieces will drop from all that. I don't know. But there will be a unique effect the armor does or gives you for when you do a spell. So for mages, like the class I get, you could possibly get, when you blink, a massive explosion of arcane energy or something unique. You know, on abilities you won't use too often, so they don't clatter up the, like raid fights for special effects. So it probably won't be standard ability like a fireball, unless it doesn't like changes your fireball from blue to green. But effects that are they do make you visually different, and these sets are meant to be like rewarding for people that can do it in silver. They're meant to be a challenge. They have said they want to bring back unique mounts and unique things for people that are suitably challenged. So it may be that when they nerf dungeons, hopefully they will leave the nerfing until the next tier comes out. Obviously on the last tier of the expansion I can see it get nerfed before the next tier, because then you have to wait until the next expansion's released before it ever gets nerfed. So I can see why they would nerf those ones. But when they nerf, it'll probably be like mounts get removed or something, maybe similar like they tried to do in in Wrath, in the first raid, and then just didn't try again. So we'll see how that goes. Let's say gold gives you a unique mount if you complete them all in gold mode. Scenarios then are the next kind of endgame PvE content. They can only occur, as far as we know, at level 90 from what they've said, and there will be 5 at launch. They will reward Valor and Rep, and they are designed to replace group quests. They have also been said to last around 30 to 40 minutes. That's their aim, 20 to 30 minutes is their kind of aim per standard scenario. And they won't require a standard dungeon group setup. They will be instanced, but they'll be set in like part of the world that already exists. So you can have like a monastery that say you have quests to go and kill nearby wildlife, but if you queue for the scenario of that monastery, that scenario pits you against an assaulting force rather than a force that's passive around you. In fact, you could have a quest chain that ends. The last quest is go and do this scenario. They're a replacement of group quests because you can queue for them. Because they found that the old group quests weren't really being done beyond, say, launch, because after launch it was really hard to find people to do group quests, and often the reward wasn't necessarily deemed worth it because they only reward you a slight bit of extra PvP, and the time it took to get groups really didn't make it worth it, especially when the gear would be replaced really quickly. I mean, on launch, the dungeon group things can be worth it because the group quests can reward decent items that help you get into like the first tier of heroics or help you actually raid to begin with. But beyond that, once gear starts getting more readily available, more readily craftable, they generally fall out of use. So scenarios for rewarding Valor and Rep, with Valor having a unique purpose within of being able to upgrade items as well as buy items. I think it may actually replace buying items. I'm not sure on all that kind of stuff. You know, we haven't been kind of given too much information. We've just been told basics about it. But with this rewarding Valor points and Rep, these will be definitely run more than once by the same person, and they're going to be fun. They're going to be more fun group quests, because a group quest is normally go kill this, go do that, whereas this will have multiple phases. Like imagine a dungeon similar to Discover the Grain, and I'm comparing it to the Caverns of Time dungeon where old Stratholme, Culling of Stratholme, you know, reveal the grain, you know, burn the grain, defend the grain while it's burning from the people that want to put the fires out, you know, that, you know, kind of more than just kill this guy. Basically, we'll have multiple kind of quests within the one scenario, and they'll be a lot more useful. So anyway, that's like generally the content that's going to be put in the endgame PVE. There is a lot there. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff to do endgame that isn't just PvE content, and I will try and cover that in a separate video soon. But anyway, hopefully I was able to give you some good information here and allow you to get a good grips of what will be coming. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, like, whatever. You know, ask questions, belief in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I've been GC Smith, and goodbye.